Hello, and welcome to the first and probably last edition of Interop After Hours. Now, as a member of the Interop NOC crew, one of the privileges that we get is the ability to be inside the convention center, even when, well, nobody else is. Right now, I'm here alone with the cleaning crew and a couple of $1 million worth of equipment, and we're just going to go through some of the more interesting booths. That's interesting for Uber geeks, but maybe not IT professionals, to show you exactly what Interop has brought out for all your Uber geek goodness. Now, for those of you who have been fans of the show for a while, you know what this is. This is the Infinite NV Plus, or it used to be the Infinite NV Plus before Netgear bought them. Now it's the ReadyNAS NV Plus from Netgear. Now, they haven't rested on their laurels. They've actually introduced a couple of other models, including this. This is the Netgear ReadyNAS Duo. Now, just as the name implies, it's a much smaller unit that has 2 drives instead of 4. Why 2 drives, you may ask? Well, Netgear asked around and they found out that, there are different types of desktop users. There are those who need something like the NV Plus because they're storing massive amounts of data, and then there are the more casual users who want something that, is maybe a little bit easier to administer, something that doesn't cost as much and still is an eye on performance. And that's where the Duo comes in. Now, for anybody out there who's ever wanted to dump all of the wired switches out of your office and get rid of that headache of cabling and troubleshooting and just go with wireless, well, Xeris feels your pain. You see, here they've got their little demo. They want you to dump the switch, and of course they've brought out the huge old construction motif. And instead of a switch, they want you to get one of these. Now, these little arrays, actually, Interop has used quite a few times to great effect. There's actually a series of radios and antennas inside of this little UFO-looking thing that allows you to get wireless to basically everywhere in one nice, neat package. This is what one of our show floor PEDs looks like. A PED is short for Pedestal. You see, when Interop first started, it was just a bunch of geeks who got together in a cafe in Santa Clara in 1988, and they decided that they wanted to show that their gear could work or interoperate with one another. You see, back then, there was more than just Ethernet. There was about 6 or 7, or maybe even as much as a dozen viable network standards, and they wanted them to be able to talk one another and discuss their gear, warts and all. So they got them together, they put them up on boxes or stands, and they called them pedestals. Well, the name stuck, and here we have our show floor PEDs. We've got about 25 of these things deployed all throughout the network, and they include everything from the patch panels that you need to distribute the copper over to the vendors, to several Interop switches, to the Coyote Point load balancing units, the Ep70 data collecting units, and of course, Fluke, Avocent, and ServerTech for your management. Now, I don't have my own data center, but if I did, I'd want it to look something like this. We're at the Corning booth, and they've got this beautiful little demonstration. Even though it's a small booth, you can see how everything is so well patched in. Everything is so easy to get to. And of course, they've got that raised floor, that modular floor with the trays underneath. Now, I know most people aren't going to get really excited about cable and cable management, but if you do have a data center, or if you have data center tendencies, an addiction to being an uber geek in IT, well, maybe not Corning, but you're definitely going to want something like this. I hadn't heard about DataDirect until the show. I've never used any of their products, but damn if I don't like the blinky green lights. Blinky. Okay, so we're at the Server Lift booth. They make this special lift, this little jack thing that's designed to help you move up to 500 pounds of servers at any given time, easily get it up into the rack. Now, I don't have any servers that weigh that much, and when I do, I normally have a couple of friends to help me out, so I'm probably not going to need one of these for moving around my massive networking gear. But if my diet doesn't kick in soon, I might need this to just move to the bathroom. The next time you complain how heavy your wireless gear is, try bringing one of these bad boys out to the park. We're actually over at the Gigawave Technologies, a division of Cisco Technologies, and they're actually showing off some of their, more interesting wireless technologies. Of course, these aren't designed to be used at your home or even at your office. They're designed for some extreme applications, but you know what? It's still kind of cool to see it. Firetide was one of these companies that emerged during the dot-com boom, and it didn't go away during the dot-com bust, which means that they've got something. And what they have is the Firetide technology mesh wireless. What this is designed to do, in case any of you haven't been keeping up with the most current network technologies, is allow you to deploy a wireless network without having to really hardpoint all that many of the APs. Rather, you get massive amounts of bandwidth on one or two, and then you install these repeaters, which allows you to mesh your wireless system, expand its coverage without having to invest in a lot of infrastructure. It's a very promising technology that has been built and rebuilt and redone and re-engineered over the years, but I just hope it comes soon because the telcos are starting to piss me off. You know, sometimes no matter how well you manage or how well you administer or how well you know your technologies, it needs a kick in the butt. That means it needs to be restarted. Well, you know, management only goes so far. You do need that sort of level 0 power, which means that you have the ability to sort of log into something, turn off your stuff, and turn it back on. That's where ServerTech comes into play. ServerTech is actually the official PDU provider of Interop, and we have their gear distributed all the way throughout our network. Now, the cool thing about these units is that not only do they allow you to remotely turn your gear on and off, but it actually keeps a tally on exactly how much power you're using. Very cool gear at a very low price. Over at the IPVS booth, they're a magazine for IP security. They have, well, Access Communications. Now, you know that we have Access Communications on our show. We've used them consistently, and I just love their products. And as you can see, they've got trellises and just oodles and oodles of Access goodness. If you want a camera, everything from the little low budget to the pan tilt zoom that'll break the bank, you may want to check out Access. And if you're going to check out Access, go to IPVS and see how they review the units. BlueCat. BlueCat is the official provider of DHCP and DNS services for the network. Now, if you don't know what DHCP and DNS is, think of it this way. When you turn on your computer, if you've got your Linksys or your Netgear router, it gives you an address so that you can communicate with the internet. Well, when you type in a website, www.thetechstop.net, well, it has to resolve. In other words, it has to get the actual number, where the server lives. Well, that's where DNS comes into play. And it's been shown that most of your network problems, those times when you can't get out, when it seems as if the internet is down, is not being caused by a router misconfiguration. It's not being caused by some sort of network outage, but it's being caused by bad DNS. In fact, if all of the telcos, if Comcast and Cox and AT&T and Sprint and so on and so forth, would invest in some good DNS servers like the BlueCat Adonis and the Proteus Management unit, we might be seeing some much better response times and bandwidth without having to build out. Just a thought. So we're at the APC booth, and APC's been known for their legendary reliability, power management, and cabling and such. I just want to bring up one thing. That is, if your closet looks like this, yes, you are a geek. Of course, a networking show couldn't be a networking show without Cisco, but they scare me, so I'm going to walk away quietly. Barracuda Networks has never been one to be shy of pimping their ride, and this year was no exception. Here we have the Barracuda Networking Love Van. Well, you know, Barracuda Networks, protect your network. Astaro Networks. They make some of the best security gateways out there. In fact, they sent us one a while back that we were supposed to review, and well, it's been sitting on the back burner. I feel really bad about that because when we turned this thing on, it probably protected our networks the best they've ever been, and we didn't have to run a bunch of kludgy, crappy antivirus software on our stations to do it. Hopefully we'll be able to get it out to you ASAP. Have you ever wondered what operation for Uber Geeks looks like? Well, if you did, you could come to the F5 booth and see. F5 makes some of the best load balancers that we have in the industry. And, well, you know, they have a long history with Interop. And I'm not really sure what this has to do with load balancing, but it's pretty fun. For all of you who thought that 1 gig was the absolute best that you could get on the desktop and servers, well, move over. 10G has arrived. Intel is making sure about that, and, well, their booth just has 10G all over the place. This is the Fusion booth. I'm not exactly sure what spinning bicycles have to do, you know, the whole wheel of death with networking. Yeah, it's pretty dang cool, though. As you can see, there are tons and tons and tons and dozens of vendors that I'm just not going to get to. And unfortunately, this is the last night of the show. You see, tomorrow, about 5 minutes after the show ends, all of this is going to be torn down to bare floor. It's kind of hard to believe that all of this can disappear so quickly, but such is the life of a conference. I hope you join us next time for Interop, and we'll bring you more Interop Uber Geek goodness.